good afternoon to all of you present here. My interest in Ariha's case started fairly early when I'd seen some posts on social media from the Shah family. And my interest in the case is from, of course, a child rights perspective, but a child rights perspective that is representative of a minority community's experiences in the child protection system in Germany. Now, while I was examining the case from the position of discrimination and racism, it dawned upon me that there's something much larger at play here, meaning the experiences of minority community children had led to a position where I realized that there needs to be a reconceptualization of the entire child welfare system. Now, as I began to dig deeper and deeper, I realized that it's not just in Germany, but all across countries in the global north, where there is a disproportionate representation of children from the BIPOCs, so Black, Indigenous, people of color community in the child welfare system, right? What I'm going to do, what I'm aiming for during the course of my very short talk is that I'm going to be looking or trying to explain this position of minority community experiences, while also giving some examples as to how this might look in the case of Ariha's position in Germany, right? So the disproportionate representation of children from BIPOC communities in the child welfare system. This has led to an understanding that we must work towards ending systems that are harmful, racist, and discriminatory in order to build a liberated society, right? So what does that mean? What does a truly liberated society mean? A truly liberated society is one from a social justice or a social workers perspective. It is one where all members of society are treated equal, are considered equal. So in the case of Ariha Shah, that would mean Ariha be treated as an equal member of society. What would that look like? For example, that would look like, as one example of many, it would also look like giving Ariha the right to have consular access, which she currently at the moment is not being given, right? This is not just, this stance and this position is not just about ending or dismantling harmful systems, but rather building societies where the need for these harmful racist systems is obsolete, right? So we have to understand that this is a civil case, right? So in civil cases, the termination of parents' right is the termination of parental rights is the most severe and permanent outcome that can result. It is the equivalent, if just to give you an example of how harsh the sentencing, so to speak, is the equivalent in the criminal justice system would be the death penalty. So this is the highest, in a family court in a civil case, this is the most extreme judgment that can be passed on a family, which is the termination of parental rights. Now, if we have been following academic, not just academic, but also if we've been following the news about cases of of criminal cases where, you come across lives of individuals and lives of families that are completely destroyed because of a wrongful conviction. It can lead one to also rethink and reimagine what would that look like in a civil case like this one, right? What happens in cases of wrongful convictions in a civil court where parental rights have been terminated? What happens then? What happens to the families? What happens to the children? What happens to the parents? What happens to the community, right? So what I'm aiming at is that what both Sagarika and the Shah family case show is that on part of child welfare authorities is that there seems to be a significant dissonance between intention and outcome. So what happens is there is an escalation that stems from concern for the child's well-being, leading to state intervention, leading to further escalation, leading to removal of the child from the family, leading to a further escalation, which is the total termination of parental rights, right? So what is the intention? The intention is, well, I'm concerned about a particular child. What is the outcome? This is the outcome, right? Individuals who rarely think of themselves as state actors, right? That can be a doctor, that can be a concerned neighbor who's concerned about a loud fight in somebody's house, inadvertently trigger a situation that is eerily similar to, it's a strong word to use, but triggers a situation that's eerily similar to incarceration of the child, right? So the policing of the family unit, because in the end, from a minority community perspective, this is what experiences of children of our community and families from our communities experience the child protection services or child welfare system as, which is policing of the family unit. Isn't what is keeping all children safe, right? Just as, theoretically, I'm leaning a little on Foucault here. Just as prisons are meant to keep public safe, what do the ideas of prisons do in society is that it creates a binary. It creates a binary of good versus evil. These are the good people in society, and there are a few bad actors in society that we need prisons to keep you safe from them for, right? That's the construction or the reasoning behind upholding of the prison system. But rarely that is the case. That is, rarely do prison as a system actually work. If anything, all prisons set out to do is to serve as a means and a mode of punishment. So if the child protection system or if prisons are not keeping us safe, are not keeping our families safe, what is? These are systems that are built on old, archaic, and problematic constructions of society, which is deeply rooted in anti-blackness and is deeply rooted in colonialism, right? So there was interestingly a report from February 2022, an investigation and a report by the European Commission, which stated and which acknowledged the widespread problem that the Federal Republic of Germany has with racism in its Behörde, that is authorities, right? So you could say police, child protection, all of them are considered authorities. So it's not one or two people who are saying, yes, the system is problematic and discriminatory towards minority communities. The European Commission is also backing up, is also saying the same thing about institutional racism on part of authorities in Germany. Now, to go back to this particular case of family Shah, what incarceration of the child does in this case is that it perpetuates harm and dismantles families and communities. So what do we do in these situations? I've thought about this question actually quite a lot when Suranya has, asked me whether I'd like to say a few words in the seminar. And I actually realized that this is exactly one of the many things that we need to do, which is that create a counter-hegemony, create these dialogues, create these spaces where we take charge of telling our own stories of our experiences within these systems. So Suranya, this is absolutely also from a decolonial perspective, not just that of advocacy. This is absolutely brilliant, and hats off to you for what you've been able to do and organize so far. Further, I'm going to try to wind up a little bit here. What I'm aiming to get at is that the child protection system is similarly ineffective, especially from perspectives of Black, Indigenous, and people of color perspectives. It serves as punishment. Who is being punished in the Shah family case, I think, is very obvious to all of us. Where also the child is if you follow the legal debate, the trial is, it is very unlikely, from where we are at right now, that the child will not be released until one of the parents takes responsibility, to go back to that binary document, dichotomy of good parent, bad parent, good people, bad people, until one of the parents takes responsibility for being a so-called bad parent, thus making them available for punishment within the carceral system, right? This represents a system of domination we live in, which is that of white supremacy and heteropatriarchy, which is steeped in both notions of racism and sexism. There are several examples of the Shah family case where this, argument can not just be made, but upheld. This brings us to a point where we need to realize, where we need to balance a desire to acknowledge the stated intentions of everyone involved in family intervention to keep the child safe, to question what would safety look like for specific children. So what would it look like really to keep Ariha safe? From her position, what would it look like? Whom do children, this is the larger question, again, minority community perspective, whom do children actually belong to? Whom does Ariha actually belong to? If you say maybe the parents, if you question whether the parents are capable or not of being her, of raising Ariha, if you say there is enough grounds to believe she needs to be taken out of the family system, out of their care, whom does she actually belong to? Does she belong within this child protection system, or does she belong to all of us, to us as a larger community? Like Hara has already said, there are enough and more families in Germany who are willing to look after not just Ariha, but other children like Ariha, without, without any cost factor or profitability being involved or brought into the picture at all, right? So in the end, there are two things I would really like to conclude by saying. Also with respect, the first one is with respect to Suranya's work. As members of visible minority communities living in the global north, engaging in such dialogue and advocacy is necessary to create our own counter-hegemonies and participate in the writing of our own histories. The second thing I would like to conclude by saying is that for members of Black, Indigenous, and people of community, people of color communities themselves, we need to have an awareness and develop a consciousness of our positions of marginalization in the global north, and to join hands in solidarity with your own communities or extended communities. This act, or the act of dismantling or addressing the harms that that discriminatory state systems impose upon us, in order to demand that our children be given back to us. The child welfare system causes children and families of our community the dismantling of the child welfare system, and the bringing back of children of our community is not the job of one individual family or the job of one individual family. It is our collective burden and our collective responsibility to shoulder and carry in order to ensure socially just futures, at least for the next generation. Thank you.